Trouble is that asylum policy is currently the law in this country. So let's discuss what this all means. With me is David Leopold. He's the chair of the immigration law group at the firm Ulmer and Bernie. Thanks so much for joining, David.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
First, on these deportation plans, we've heard varying things from Trump allies about exactly how broad this would be targeting all undocumented immigrants versus those with criminal convictions, and that raises the question, who's defined as criminal, given that most of the criminal convictions, as I understand it, are for things involving immigration and traffic violations, etc. Do you know, do you have a sense of how broad this will be?
Well, look, first off, given the appointments of the last few days, Stephen Miller, who we just showed as Deputy White House Chief of Staff, Tom Homan as Border Czar, and today Kristi Noem at Department of Homeland Security, it's clear, it's disturbingly clear that they mean what they say. The Trump administration is going to carry out mass deportation. To the best they can. Now, to your question about who are the criminals and who are not, look, last time around, Trump #1, there were enforcement priorities. That's mandated by the Department of Homeland Security statutes. They have to institute enforcement priorities. But what they did, if you read the old Trump enforcement priorities, they prioritized everybody. So the grandmother, the undocumented grandmother, is just as much a priority as the national security risk and the terrorist. What happens in real life is that when they call people in, that's how they do this. ICE will send out what's called call-in notices. Who's going to go in? The people who comply with the law. So it's going to be the hardworking folks that are in our construction industry and in our food industry and in our agricultural industry. They're going to go in, they're going to get deported first. So in effect, what this is going to do is make our streets more dangerous.
Let's talk about the asylum piece of this, because you heard Stephen Miller there talk about, in fact, using the military right to deny asylum. I mean, the trouble is the right to asylum is pretty clearly outlined in existing laws. So how do they do this? And I assume if they do this, it will be challenged in the court.
Well, of course, it'll be challenged in the courts because the law is, like you just said, pretty clear. And in fact, the law directly says that it doesn't matter how you got to the United States, whether you came at a port of entry or whether you crossed between ports of entry. Anybody on the soil of the United States has the right to apply for asylum in the United States. Now, you referenced Title 42. Miller did in the opening to this hit. Look, they use Title 42, which is a health statute. They can come up with all kinds of pretexts, and I suspect they will. But let's go to the larger question. The asylum system is broken. The immigration law is broken. And instead of rounding up families, and instead of putting troops at the border with automatic weapons focused on women who are rolling strollers coming in why don't we just reform the immigration law? This law has not been reformed since the 60s.
And that was, I mean, there was a proposal, right, to do just that. What was a bipartisan proposal earlier this year, which Trump scuttled. He said he wanted to handle the issue if and when he was elected. And as part of that law, it raised the standard, in effect, for asylum claims to be heard. Could that get another chance, as it were, that what was a bipartisan proposal to change the asylum law?
Yeah, and that was a pretty strong law, which I think a lot of immigration advocates had a hard time swallowing. But look, we do need a reform to the asylum system. The asylum system isn't working. It wasn't designed to deal with thousands of people coming in at the southern border. So we do need a reform, and that was a good bill. But I think that this bill, the bill that would have reformed asylum, the one that Trump scudded in the spring, that's probably going to be too mild for them. I think that they're going to want to completely throw out any right for safe haven in the United States, which kind of cuts against our core American values. I mean, most Americans, and this is the polls talking, not me. Most Americans want a fair, reasonable, due process-oriented system. What Americans want is order and fairness. They don't want chaos. And when we start talking about throwing troops at our southern border, standing there with automatic weapons, we're talking about chaos. We're talking about rounding people up from their homes all over the interior of the United States and gutting the construction industry, gutting agriculture,
Right.
Gutting home health care, and raising prices because it's going to cost more to get lettuce to market and milk to market.
Right.
Americans voted last week because they were upset that there were higher milk prices, higher grocery prices. That's what we kind of know.
Yeah, that could be a second order effect of this. But before we go, Tom Homan, the border czar choice, has said there will not be concentration camps. There will not be mass sweeps of neighborhoods. How can that be true given the scale of what the Trump appointees and administration is proposing here?
Well, look, they're going to have a lot of problems if they go into mass sweeps and detention camps. I don't think the American people are going to put up with it. I think they're going to be recoil in horror if that sort of spectacle unfolds in the United States. But there are plenty of things that they can do. What we saw them do last time was issue all kinds of what we call call-in notices. Come into ICE, we want to look at your status. The minute people go in, Jim, then they're arrested and then they're later removed.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things that they can do. Deputizing local police, that's going to compromise public safety because no one's going to trust local police to report crime and to be witnesses to. So,
well, we might very well see it play out before our eyes soon. David Leopold, thanks so much for walking us through it.